What up, everybody? It's your buddy Josh. I know you guys are all watching this Kentucky Derby instead of me. How dare you? How dare you? Oh, interesting. So the Brits, I guess, in local elections, they went for the Reform Party, which is pretty good. JD Vance is crushing. We gotta love JD Vance. Yeah. Our long-term Toyota Grand Highlander crisscrosses the country. We're 30,000 miles in. Have had no significant issues with this family-friendly workout horse. Yeah, I've got a Toyota Highlander 2012, 13, 140,000 miles on it. It's crushing, man. Crushing. Anyway, people are mad because Trump posted a. I guess there's Trump. I don't know if Trump posted that or what. People are mad. Oh my goodness. It's so funny. People are really upset by the Trumpster having a sense of humor. Cracks me up, man. Ooh, China erupts. Furious workers riot as factories collapse under Trump's tariffs. Yeah, I've heard this 1,000 times this Sunday. Iran and China, they're about to become capitalist. Workers throughout China are flooding the streets in revolt as Trump's tariffs slam the fragile Chinese export economy. From the cramped streets of Sichuan, the southwest, the cold outskirts of Inner Mongolia, in the northwest, furious workers are demanding back pay and protesting mass layoffs as factories shudder under Trump's tariffs. Yeah, my wife cut it, man. My wife she's freaking looking good. Look at that. It's free. Yeah, I don't buy any of that. We'll see. We'll see how it shakes out, man. I'm not. I used to follow all this crap. You know, they're all revolting against Xi Jinping. I said, yeah. China's about to go down. Iran's about to go down. I've read this stuff for freaking a decade at least, and it's just never happened. So we'll see. We'll see. What else is going on here? I'm just looking quickly through the news. Don't care about that. I want to know the truth behind those anti-Trump polls. Yeah, because the people who are polling are fools. If you're not following Rasmussen, Trafalgar, or whatever it's called, I mean, they got him right, man. And right now, Rasmussen is showing Trump still quite favorable. So, let's see. Yeah, so you can get your student loan forgiven by working for an NGO because it's considered in the public service. Trump should end that immediately. Yep. AOC taunts Tom Homan after DOJ DOJ referral threat over deportations. Come for me. You think I care? Oh God, dude, she's such a clown. Oh my goodness. China. Hey, what's up, Paul? Madam. Yeah, right on. Oh yeah. Dude, I can't stand the Republicans, but the Democrats are just, oh my goodness. I mean, if the Democrats went back to their somewhat, yeah, I don't know. I just, whatever, man. That's the whole thing so stupid. But I like seeing Reform Party in Britain tearing it up. They destroyed Labor and the Conservatives. And I think what the guy win in Canada, I mean, he didn't win a majority, still got a minority government. It looks like the Liberals, basically the NDP, the New Democratic Party, or something like that, run by some clown Indian. They walked. They're not even an official party anymore. So they got so destroyed that they're basically not even official. But you have to have more than I think it's more than 7 seats or 10 seats in the Canadian Parliament to maintain your real status as a party, and they only got 7. I think they lost a ton. And a lot of those people for NDP went up to the Labor because Labor is liberal, and that's where they or liberals, whatever it is. But anyway, that's where they belong. The Conservatives, on the other hand, actually won more seats, hey buddy, than the Liberals. So I think the Liberals won in Canada. They were up like 18 seats or something like that. I think the Conservatives were up like 40. I don't quote me on that, but it's like a 2-1 margin. Yeah, could the UK actually be getting tired of leftist government? Yeah, I mean, well, they not yet. I mean, they gave conservative governance for 14 years. The conservatives were in charge in the UK for 14 years, and I mean, this is why all these people are blaming the left. I'm like, it's not the left, it's the globalists. Oh, you got your toy? Good boy. And I'm just like, dude, it's not the left. I mean, the left's evil. Don't get me wrong, but hey, Dan, it's the globalist. I mean, the Tories ran that friggin' thing all that time of massive immigration, going after people for posting. I mean, that's all under the Tories. And they didn't do crap. And I'm just like, and actually, I was watching the Lotus Eaters, I think is what it's called, the Lotus Eaters. They're saying like the left wing guy who's running it now, Starmer, whatever his name is, Stormfront, whatever his name is, he's like more right wing than any Tory leader they've had. It's crazy, man. It's nuts. And anyway, so we'll see. I mean, the UK conservatives are basically, I think the UK conservatives are basically liberals. Horrible. I mean, just freaking Boris Johnson. What a freaking clown, dude. I mean, if I was tyrant for the day, I'd put Boris Johnson to the gallows. I'd say, you just sold everybody out. Yeah, all right, let's get Alberta and then Greenland. Exactly. I said on LinkedIn today, I said, hey, I'll trade California for Alberta any day of the week. And someone said, well, then go move to California. I said, that doesn't make any sense. I don't want to live in Canada. I want to live in the United States. I would rather have Alberta than California. It's like, okay. And some guy posted, which didn't make any sense to me. He said, Alberta succeeding is so stupid, seceding, seceding, not succeeding, seceding. He goes, Alberta has had a strong economy under the Labor government. It's like, it could be much, much stronger though. But he even posted something. People just make stuff up. I'm sick of economists and people making stuff up, which led me to do this live stream here. Because it's just like more just fakery, man. It's just, I'm so over these economists who they never have to say sorry ever. It's crazy. And or ever say we were wrong, right? It's so freaking frustrating. So what I want to do is I'm going to share with you this. So basically I did a video today about how, basically these guys lied about I hate to say lie, but they're saying, everyone who says, that Trump tariffs on steel and aluminum raise prices, they're just wrong, dude. I mean, they're just absolutely wrong. And that yet people still say this. They say, oh no, we got evidence that Trump's steel import tariffs raised prices. And it's just like, well, that was in 2018. Here we are in 2025. Are you still using that as evidence? And they do. So they use one thing from the Peterson Institute, and then they're going to use this thing from this Federal Reserve study, which I said, let's take a look at this Federal Reserve study, shall we? And see what this Federal Reserve study says, because it's just it's so embarrassing. So we're going to look up this right here. So this is the Federal Reserve study, Finance and Economics Discussion Series, Division or whatever, from the Federal Reserve Board, Washington, D.C. All right. This disentangling the effects of the 2018-2019 tariffs on a globally connected U.S. manufacturing sector by Aaron Flain and Justin Pierce. And this is written in 2019. Wow. All right, so this is written in 2019 that was going to disentangle effects from the tariffs of 2018-19. So one of the things that's always idiotic, I don't have any tips, or I don't know. One of the things that's always idiotic is saying our short-term analysis should be used for the future prognostication of whether those tariffs were good, bad, or otherwise. Like the Braves started 0-7 this year. Should they fire the Braves coach because they're 0-7? It's a 162 games season. The Braves, last I saw, were at 500 ball. Let's see here. The Braves were at 500. So the Braves right now, NLB, right there. And we're going to see standings. And they're the Braves National League. Yeah, so the Braves, well, now they're 14-17. So they've lost 2 straight. So hey, Sean, hey, right on. Hey, look at Sean crushing. Anyway, the point being is if you're going to look at something in the short term, you better follow up with a long-term thing. Because if someone said we should fire whatever the Braves coach name, I can't remember, because they were 0-7. Well, now let's see where they are now. So now they're 14-10 over the last 27 games. All right. It's just stupid. And this is the thing with economists is that they'll cite this study as if that's the proof, like something hasn't changed. I said the effect of tariffs. So I asked Grok. I said, Grok, are tariffs that Trump passed or initiated are tariffs still in effect? All right, so this is 2018. So what does old Grok say? Grok said, no, look, Grok isn't God. I mean, Grok can make mistakes. I've already seen Grok make a couple mistakes, but I said, are the tariffs still in place today? And Grok said, hold on just a second. Hold on. What happened to it? I don't know what happened to my question. But anyway, the tariffs are still in place on most of the stuff. What am I saying, man? Anyway, the tariffs are still basically in place. All right, so I have my question here. Grok, you really get on my nerves. Yeah, now I can't find it. But yes, Moonbase Alpha calling right on. There you go, explaining the truth exactly. So the tariffs are still basically in place from 2018. So now we have 7-year track record, all right, to account for whether or not Trump's tariffs are evil or they serve us well. So let's take a look here, because I just want to share this to you, because these are the arguments that they use against tariffs, is that they're going to use these studies from the Peters Institute, which you already just destroyed here earlier today in a video, and we're going to destroy this one as well. All right, so since the beginning of 2018, the United States has undertaken unprecedented tariff increases. All right, dude, it's like the most idiotic argument that these are when you start that, I'm like, do you not know any history? It's crazy. Unprecedented tariff increases. It's not even, it's so far from truth. Like, why would you say that? Unless you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So who are these guys again? It's freaking Aaron Flayen and Justin Pierce. I was like, dude, this is not anywhere near unprecedented tariff increases. A key feature of our analysis is accounting for the multiple ways that tariffs might affect the manufacturing sector. Might, not did, but might, including providing protection for domestic industries, raising costs for imported inputs, and harming competitiveness in overseas market due to retaliatory tariffs. Might. Well, that's a speculation. This could happen. Yeah, it could. We could get bombed tomorrow too. Exactly, unprecedented. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, the minute they say that, I'm like, and they say it twice too. I'm like, this is crazy. At least twice. I said, this is insanity. Anyway, let's keep going. While there are certainly vast theoretical and empirical literatures documenting the effects of changes in trade policy, it is not clear how prior estimates apply to the present day when there are virtually no modern episodes of a large advanced economy raising tariffs in a way comparable to the U.S. in 2018 and 19. There is no modern episodes of a large advanced economy raising tariffs the way we did in 2018. So just keep that in mind, because you're going to say, we don't have any evidence at all that tariffs are going to hurt us. And then they'll always go back to Smoot-Hawley. And then I'll always go back to the McCordney tariff in 1922. And then I'll go back to the Dingley tariff of 1897. And they'll say, oh, well, those times don't matter. I said, why? Because, the world's different now, Josh. The world's different. I said, then why are you going to Smoot-Hawley? Well, okay. So even if I gave my 2 examples of tariffs that were very positive for the economy, for their one example of a tariff that was not positive for the economy, even if that'd be stupid. I'd be fighting both hands behind my back. But let's just say I did. We don't have any evidence at all of a history of large-scale, big, advanced domestic economies like we have saying tariffs are good, bad, or we have no clue whatsoever. So but they'll always go back to Smoot-Hawley. Hey, what's up, Drewski? What's going on in Minnesota, brother? Corporations are using the tariffs to conduct layoffs or restructuring due to increased costs. They just got put in yesterday. What are you talking about? What corporation? Anyway, so the issue is here, or corporations in the plural, I should say. The issue is here, first of all, you can't say you just don't. And if you're going to use Smoot-Hawley to say they're bad, then we, the good guys, will say, okay, we'll talk about Dingley and McCordney. Well, you can't do that. Okay, that's stupid. All right, so let's just wipe it clean. So we don't know, do we? All right. My wife and both turned 58 this year and both retired. Right on, Sean. Sean's a legend. UPS. All right, so Further complicating the process of estimating the effects of tariffs is the rapid expansion of globally interconnected supply chains, in which tariffs can have impacts through channels beyond their traditional effect of limiting import competition. Interesting. Thus, while existing research has mostly documented negative consequences of the tariff increases on the broad economy, including higher prices, lower consumption, reduced business investment, and drops in the valuations of some affected firms, we just don't know that because there is no one's ever done this before. So all the research in a modern advanced economy is without any tariffs at all. And then again, don't forget, Reagan had a tariff, 100% tariff on Japanese semiconductors in 1987, and he threatened Japanese auto manufacturers with tariffs in 1981 as well. Reagan, the free trader. This paper provides the first comprehensive estimates of the effect of recent tariffs on the U.S. manufacturing sector. All right, let's keep going because I just chuckled this. U.S. tariffs have also been imposed on intermediate inputs, and the associated increase in cost may, again, that word may hurt U.S. manufacturers competitive for both the export and domestic markets. So U.S. tariffs may hurt U.S. manufacturers competitive. Why? Why would tariffs hurt U.S. manufacturers' competitiveness? That doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be more competitive, but why would they hurt it? It could be more competitive. It could be less. But why would tariff make U.S. manufacturers less competitive? That doesn't make any sense at all. Moreover, U.S. trade partners have imposed retaliatory tariffs on U.S. exports of certain goods, which might put U.S. firms at a disadvantage in those markets relative to their foreign competitors. Wait. Where's my comment? I had a bunch of comments on here. Let's see, man. So, U.S. tariffs hurt domestic manufacturers by having tariffs. But U.S. tariffs also hurt domestic manufacturers because it could put us at a disadvantage relative to foreign competitors. That makes sense. So, not only are we hurting ourselves domestically, we're hurting our because we can't compete with our foreign competitors. We also hurt ourselves internationally too. We account for declines in competitiveness associated with the increased input costs as the share industry costs subject to tariffs. So what they're saying is we associate account for the declines in competitiveness because we have increased input costs. I hope you guys are hearing what that means. Increased input costs. Hey, Harry. Increased input costs. So they're saying because increased input costs, that would reduce American competitiveness both internationally and domestically. So what's the variable in there that we want to focus on? Well, it'd be obviously input cost, because if input costs are not increasing, what does that mean exactly? Then this model is broken. All right, let's keep going. We find that tariff increases enacted in 2018 are associated with relative reductions in manufacturing employment and relative increases in producer prices. Interesting. We're going to talk about that here in just a second because I want to show you guys something. So remember, we find that the tariff increases enacted in 2018 are associated with relative reductions in manufacturing employment. All right, so check this out because you'll get a kick out of this. I just posted this on my various social feeds. So if you're not on X or LinkedIn or Facebook, you should be following me there. Oops, wrong one. Hold on a second. Blink. I got to go over here. Go here. So I catch. Hey, Harry. All right. So let's go here. Blink. Share screen. And I want to show you right here. So remember what they said. We find that tariff increases enacted in 2018 are associated with relative reductions in manufacturing employment and relative increases in producer prices. So let's look at this right here. Here's manufacturing employment. It peaked out in 1979. This is the beginning of deregulation. This is the beginning of the free trade with Carter, then Reagan. Look at manufacturing. I said on these various things, I said, man, these guys think tariffs are bad for manufacturing employment. Wait till they see what happened to free trade. Look at that. Manufacturing employment. And so right here, 2018, 2018 to 2019, we actually had increase in manufacturing employment. It's just like, what? It's so freaking stupid. I'm like, really? So you're gonna attribute this to tariffs right here? Okay, then I attribute this to free trade. So you attribute that to tariffs, I attribute this to free trade. How about that? Oh, so dumb, man. In terms of manufacturing employment, rising input costs. There's that terminology again, rising input costs. So they're assuming that there's going to be rising input costs just because tariffs. So tariffs happen, input costs rise. That's their assumption. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. In terms of manufacturing employment, rising input costs and retaliatory tariffs for each contribute to the negative relationship, and the contribution from these channels more than offset a small positive effect from import protection. For producer prices, the relative increases associated with tariffs due largely to the rising input costs. All right, so let's go back to rising input costs, shall we? If I can find my article. Yes, I can. Yeah, right here. We're going to show you that the rising input cost right here. So let's go here and say, well, that didn't last long. Right on, Liberty. Bros research is from True Social. Well, it was actually not from True Social. Hey, because I'm not on there. And this is directly from the horse's mouth there, guy. So whatever. The resistance to tariffs is only because the elite will lose. 100%. That's absolutely what it is. The elitists, the globalists will lose money unequivocally. They do not want the manufacturer. They do not want the labor. They do not want middle class wages to grow. And that's I don't have it here, but reading my book from. Let me go get my. Actually, I can get my tea and I can get my book as well. I'll be right back. Of all the mainstream economists. Anyway, let me see if I can't share this with you. Okay, Pablo, take over. Right here, 96 and 97. I'm going to share something with you. So this is my man, Richard Easterlin, is an economist who just died like last year. Population, labor force, and long savings for economic growth. And this is written in 1968. So I'm going to share this with you. Right here. In the 1940s, earnings in the lower income occupations rose much more rapidly than they did in the higher. And then in the 1950s, about the same. Interesting. So the 1940s and 50s, the earnings in the lower income occupations rose much more rapidly than they did in the higher populations as well. Interesting, is it not? Yes, it is. Let's see here. Right here. If the economy has experienced a rate of growth of if the economy has experienced an expansion, the rate of growth of labor demand would increase. And other things remaining unchanging, one would expect this to lead, through its effect on income and employment conditions, to a favorable response to fertility of the native population by encouraging marriage and childbearing. However, under conditions of free immigration, the increased rate of growth of labor demand would also provoke an influx of immigrants. The resulting rise in the rate of additions to the labor market would tend to counteract the tendency towards tightening and thus offset to some measure stimulus to fertility of the native born. Anyway, the point being is right here, if you have increasing growing economy and restricted labor demand, that would increase fertility, as you can kind of see that through history. But how you offset that? Why would it increase in fertility? Because the people's wages are growing. All right. So how do you offset that? You import massive amounts of immigration, massive amounts. Crazy. And that's what they did. They wanted massive amounts of immigration to keep the middle class wages low relative to the rich. I mean, it's just it's not even debatable in my opinion. If the rate of growth of right here, hold on a second. Anyway, I just thought this was very interesting. The rate of growth in the 40s and 50s of middle class income was growing higher than it was for the wealthy people. So let's keep going here. And that's from my man, Richard Easterlin, right there. And it's very interesting, 1968. He talks about 1920s And basically had no immigration, none, from starting 1920 until about mid-1960s or so. And really not much even then, none. And the economy was booming. Kind of interesting, is it not? Because they always say, well, we have to have immigration to get a growing economy. So what happened? Well, we had free trade and free labor, essentially, from 1980s and beyond. And the economy, while boomed under Reagan and Clinton, it hasn't boomed since. The economy has been on a decelerating trajectory with all the free trade and all the free immigration at 100%. And on top of that, middle class wages. Now, I will grant you there's another argument to make here on middle class wages, but middle class wages, the median wages have only grown by 0.25% above that of inflation since 1979. Now, we can make an argument, and I think it's a legit argument, that there's less people in the middle class today than there was 50 years ago because more people have gone up to the upper affluent. I think there's something to be said about that, 100%. However, at the same time, the facts are the median wages since 1979 has grown all of 0.25% above inflation. The wages for the uber wealthy have grown much more than that percentage base. It's not even close. It's like discussing how far their wages have grown relative to the median wage. And that's a problem, man. That's a problem, absolutely. So you got more and more power being consolidated, wealth consolidated to higher echelons. And there's a reason why poor people go to Congress and then they come away as rich people. Joe Biden, all these guys. There's a reason for that, because the wealthy can control Congress, man. The Creature from Jekyll Island. Ooh, I think I've heard that. Who wrote that? Was that Ronald Sherry? Was that wrong? Creature from Jekyll Island. Jekyll. Who wrote that book? I've heard of it. I can't remember who wrote it, but yeah, I got to get that. So we had no immigration. All right, we had increasing labor demand, and as such, the wages were rising without question. Edward G. Griffin. Yes, I think that's right on. Didn't they kill that guy or something like that? Didn't he get taken out? I can't remember. And we've seen that time and again. So we've had no immigration, increasing labor prices for sure, in an economy that was growing pretty significantly, without question. Mass layoffs and severe recession. What are you saying, Brad? You're just stating something. Mass layoffs and severe recession. I don't understand what you're saying. Anyway, let's keep going back to these fools. Oh, I was going to show you something else here. So remember, we left off here where they said the increasing input costs. All right, so they're saying the increasing input costs are hurting, and then we're going to go to this from Reuters of all places, which I was stunned by, because Reuters is definitely a left-wing rag. Let's see. Tariffs had downstream impact on industries that rely on metal. So we're going to see right here. Here's the tariffs right there, phased in, and you're going to see. It's not. Show you the prices. Where are the prices? Let's go to the prices right here. Tariffs on metal heated up prices. All right, so tariffs right there. Whoa. So you can see right here, here's steel prices in the U.S. They were going up significantly before tariffs. In fact, tariffs had a leveling off of the increase, a deceleration, and then they started going down. So input costs, as these professors or economists would say, going up hurt. But I'm like, but that's not what happened, is it now? Input costs did not go up. In fact, input costs, is right on here, steel is going up significantly before the tariffs. Input costs of aluminum were going up significantly before the tariffs. And then they dropped. So you can't sit there and say the input costs rising are permanent and will hurt manufacturing, will hurt jobs and all that. It's idiotic. You can't say that. But they keep saying it. I'm just like, this is where economists are full of crap. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, at least what? And let's keep going here, because I have more to argue on this, because it's really annoying to me. Because these are the arguments that people make anti-tariffs. I'm like, it's like arguing with COVID people, dude. It's like literally. So I don't know if you guys have been following my man Turtle Boy. It kind of bores me, but he's followed this case, Karen Reed case, where some lady is accused of killing her boyfriend cop and whatnot. And there's a lot of shenanigans going on there. And Karen Reed is being set up by the cops. Is bad. And Turtle Boy's been following this and the dude's just got all the receipts, and there's no way Karen Reed did what they said. There's just no way. But anyway, somehow, any chance of Democrat becomes president, they'll keep Trump's tariffs. Yeah, Biden did. Absolutely. I mean, Trump's tariffs on China are still in there. Anyway, so the Karen Reed case, it's a cluster, and it's definitely not open and shut. But people like arguing, it's open and shut on X and on Facebook and stuff, and said, have you ever even looked into this? I don't need to, or I have looked. I said, you just obviously haven't, because there's no way you say that it's open and shut. I mean, you might say she's guilty, but not the way. It's definitely not open and shut. It's like arguing with the COVID people, though. I'm like, have you actually read that Pfizer study? No. Well, they'll never admit they haven't. I said, have you actually read any study on MMRs, DPTs, all these freaking vaccines? Are they congruent with each other in terms of these infant kids? Is it safe? Have you ever read any studies? Because there isn't any. I mean, just none. There's no studies on that. But they'll say, well, they'll say, and yet you're arguing as if this is a done deal, and yet you won't even entertain the idea that you might be missing out on something. It's kind of like the anti-tariff people, because I used to be one not that long ago. I said smoothaholic just like everybody else, and then I started reading books from the past. I said, oh, I never knew about Dingley, never knew about McKinley, never knew about Dingley, never knew about Fordney, never knew about these tariffs. Never knew about Reagan's tariffs on Japan. Never knew this stuff. I said, wait a second here. Wait a second. And then on top of that, I saw the growth mechanism in the United States is just on a decelerating path. I'm like, I thought immigration was supposed to grow our economy, and tariffs and free trade was supposed to grow it. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened, at least for the last 25 years. Not even close to it. So why? Why is that not happening? And people say, well, because it would be worse. That's what they say. It'd be so much worse. And I'm like, well, see, you can't say that. It'd be so much. I mean, again, my life would be so much worse if I didn't get Finney. I mean, you just don't know that. You know what I'm saying? My life would be so much worse if I was wearing a Georgia State shirt instead of just Georgia. You have no clue. You can't say that. That's not an argument to make that says, oh, if we didn't do this, if we had tariffs, it would have been a lot worse. You just don't know that. Dude, you actually think it's a big problem in Texas with measles? You actually think that? Really? Really? Do you really think that? Have you actually heard about the kid who supposedly died from measles? Have you heard the backstory of that? My man's got a big problem in Texas with people not getting the measles vaccine. Is that a vaccine problem or a people problem? Oh my goodness, measles. I would encourage you to watch the Brady Bunch on YouTube, the clips about measles. Watch the 1950s and 1960s shows where they talk about measles. You'll quickly be recognize that measles aren't a big deal. They're just not. And next thing you know, my man Fast Eddie will say, if it wasn't for the polio vaccine, we'd all be in a freaking, what do they call those things? The iron lung. Oh. Same thing with this. It's like the same thing with arguing with this guy about measles. I'm like, dude, you don't even know. Oh my god, we have a measles breakout. Oh my goodness, we're all gonna die. Like, oh, dude, do we actually? It's like, I don't know, this guy's here, Tom, but he'll say, someone posted a thing about a pit bull mauling this little baby. He said, when are we gonna realize pit bulls need to be, basically killed? Essentially, I'm like, man. I said, wait till you learn how many kids die in the bathtubs each year. We better ban bathtubs. And Tom says, oh, bathtubs attack kids? I'm like, oh, so that's it here. So the cause of death is what makes death a bad thing. Dying in a bathtub as a little boy, that's not as bad as being mauled by a pit bull, even though many more kids die in bathtubs than they do by pit bulls. Look, we learned there's all these arguments in the gun control thing. Oh, my goodness. Guns kill so many kids, and you're like, well, and you factor in what the age group of kids was all the way up to 19 years old, and then you factor in terms of basically the children with accidental discharges. You said, oh, there's well more people dying from drowning in a bathtub than are accidentally discharging people. Then you factor in all the positive things that firearms do, and bathtubs do, and pit bulls do for people. Then you start saying, yeah, this is a risk. 100%, it's not a bad risk to take, though. Like this guy right here, he's a third pit bull. He's licking his butt right now. So if someone says, somebody can maul your children, Like, how many dogs are out there? Pit bulls? I've done 5 million or something like that. How many kids die from pit bulls every year? A couple hundred, if that. It's horrible. How many kids die from drowning in bathtubs? It's the same. It's the same thing. It's idiotic. There's no risk-free society. A man fast said, he says, but measles are horrible. You are incorrect. We're going to get measles and die. Oh, it's going to be horrible. We're all going to die from measles, don't you know? Oh, I'm so scared. Ban bathtubs and pit bulls and force measles vaccines on everybody. That's what we need to do, because if you don't get your measles vaccine, you're risking my life. I always wondered that too. It's like, how are we risking your life if we don't have the vax, if you have the vax? That doesn't make any sense to me. I never quite understood. You have the vax, so you're protected. I don't have the vax, so in theory, I'm unprotected. So why would you care? Actually, my wife was just reading me something that Netherlands, or Newfoundland, and some other place in Canada. They stopped reporting the deaths from COVID, basically in 2022 or something like that. Why? Because the vast majority of people dying from COVID were vaxxed. The vast majority of people dying from COVID were vaxxed. So let's just say it's a 10-to-1 ratio of the people dying from COVID were vaccinated. And let's just say, I don't know, it's a 5-to-1 ratio of the people in Newfoundland had the vax versus not. All right, so you have for every 6 people, 5 got the vax and 1 doesn't. For every 11 dead from COVID, 10 had the vax and 1 didn't. And so they stopped reporting that. And I think she said 2022 or something like that, because kind of makes them a little bit worried. Yeah, ban bathtubs and pit bulls, problem solved. Exactly, dude. And make sure everyone has a measles vaccine, because measles are out to get you. Just watch the Brady Bunch when I think who's the kid? Paul? No, I can't remember the kids. I think, did Marsha get it? I can't remember. But Bobby got to ban cars, 100%. Got to ban cars. And do what they're doing in the UK. They're banning swords. They're banning all kinds of stuff. There's a Bobby. Who's a middle kid? Bobby's a young kid. I forgot the middle kid's names. Greg, Peter. Or maybe it was Bobby. I can't remember. It's Peter or Bobby. They came home with the measles. I think Jan got the measles too. And then the little blonde head girl got it. Like, we get to stay home. Yay. Nothing like having measles. And everyone's like, it's no big deal. And then there's another show where they said he was a professional boxing promoter, and one of his boxers had measles. He goes, man, I can't fight. I got measles. He goes, measles, that's no big deal. It's better get out there. And it was just funny as hell, dude. It's amazing to me how many people get scared of this stuff. It's crazy. I find it insane. I'm like, dude, what? You're really that scared of this? Of measles? Really? What next? Chicken pox? Come on, man. Jeez. Of all the things to worry about, that's just crazy. Especially if you got the vaccine. I thought it would protect you. But don't you know, Josh, if it wasn't for the vaccine, we'd all die for smallpox. We'd all die. We'd all be an iron lung. I don't even want to go into a vaccine tangent because it's mind-boggling. All right, let's keep going on the tariff tangent. But this is what we have to argue with. When you argue with the people who think tariffs are evil at all costs, you argue with people who just don't know the history of this stuff. They just don't. They read some headlines, they hear the scare tactics, and they fall for it like good little soldiers that they are. They don't know what they're talking about. They just don't. And the reason people like me become anti-vax, become a pro-tariff guy, become recognizing that free trade wasn't all it's cracked up to be, put a tariff on measles, is because we all started like this. We all started believing that free trade was good. At least I did. That vaccines were always good. The science and all that. We all started with that. We all, free trade's good, tariffs are bad. All did. And then we started looking into it and we said, wait, no. There's a side of the story you have never been told, never heard. And then it pisses you off because, like, why do they not teach this other stuff? Can we just get a tariff vaccine? 100%. Yeah, 100%, Penelope. All right, so let's keep going here. Penelope, what do you think about pit bulls? Did we have this discussion with you? Because there's another discussion we're having on Facebook. Pit bulls are bad. Oh, my goodness, we got to ban pit bulls, euthanize pit bulls. I'm like, how many people have an emotional love of their pit bull? It makes them so happy for their pit. How many people relative to the few people who get mauled by a pit bull? How many people? And this is a thing that economists are supposed to do, is weigh the pros and the cons. This is literally because things are scarce. I mean, everything is, your life is based on scarcity. You don't have too many, you can't have unlimited stuff. So we know, does a pit bull bring a factor of 1,000,000 happiness for every one child that's mauled? And then if you say, well, it's not worth it for those 1,000,000 people to have happiness because they're pit bull because that one child was mauled, then why is it worth it for us to have bathtubs if two children are mauled for every 500,000 people enjoy a bathtub? Why is it worth that? You see what I'm saying? So this is where economists are supposed to, this is what real economists are supposed to do. They're supposed to weigh the pros and cons. Well, if one mauled kid from a pit bull is bad, then how about two kids dying in a bathtub? It's probably more than that for every 500,000 hours of enjoyment. It's yeah. My son has a little rescue pitty. He's such a sweetheart and actually sleeps next to him. He's next to his rescue cat. 100%, dude. Oh, but don't you know? The father in the Brady Bunch was 57 flavors, and the guy who played Greg. Wait, for real? Wait, the guy who played Greg was hooking up with Alice? No, not Alice. Wait, Alice was. Whatever her name was. All right, yeah, it's okay. You don't have to trust them. I don't think you should have an inherent trust of any aggressive. Yeah, what the hell is Mrs. Brady's name? Claire? I know it's Florence Henderson, but what's her name in Brady Bunch? No, in Brady Bunch, though. Liz? Claire? Penelope? I don't remember. We got Alice, the hot lady Alice. Dude, I used to, man, Marcia was so flipping hot, dude. Carol, that's what it was, Carol, yeah. Dude, Marcia. And it turns out, I think Jan became the hot one, though, didn't she? Or was it, I think Jan was a real, like, when she got older, became the hot one. But Marcia was freaking us. I mean, dude, oh my goodness. So I was growing up, the Brady Bunch was on. More videos every day about tariffs. Yep. Wait, what did Penelope ask what we're talking about? I don't think she asked that, did she? But the Jan was, yeah, exactly. But not back then. I don't think Jan was a hot one back then. I think she was hot when she got older. Because Marcia didn't look so good. She got old. I don't know what happened to the little one, whatever her name was. But I was like, damn, Jan freaking, he was smoking. But she wasn't a hot one during the Brady Bunch. Isn't that crazy? What's up, Andy? From New Hampshire? Yeah, when older. Yeah, Jan got smoking hot. I don't know if the dude's got any. I mean, look, I'm not 57 flavors, so I'm not like Mr. Brady, but I don't think those guys I don't think they grew into handsomeness, did they? I don't know. We're at New Hampshire. You from, Andy? My sister-in-law is taking a traveling nurse job in Exeter. In fact, she's going up there today, as a matter of fact. The aggressiveness is trained into pit bulls, not inherent to the breed. All right, so let's keep going. I don't know. I haven't studied it. I bet pit bulls have a little bit more aggressive nature than other dogs, for sure. But I don't know that for sure. But it just seems like they probably do. And the only reason I say it is because the history of pit bulls being trained horribly would lead you to have Nashua, right on. Nashua would lead you to think pit bulls are more aggressive because we hear all these stories about pit bulls being aggressive. So inherently you think they're probably more aggressive. I don't know. I mean, Finney's a third pit bull and, don't mess around with his food. But on that, he's never done anything. I mean, he's actually scared of his own shadow, this guy right here. Hell, Pablo scares the hell out of Finney. But if you go after his food, he will fight and he gets mad. And he's a third pit bull, we find out. And he's got the, freaking jaws of life right there. One of the dudes married a model and I think anyone can marry a model in Hollywood, though, and had a reality TV show. Yeah, my good friend from the Army lived in Nashua, and he OD'd there in like 2014, I think. So sad, man. So sad. Last time I ever drank was in Nashua, New Hampshire, May 25th, 1997, but who's counting? Yeah, exactly. I guarantee if Pop was bigger, he'd be a freaking force to be reckoned with. Yeah, dogs, dude. Postmen have the bad time with dogs. When I was delivering mail, got bit by a dog my first day on the job. I mean, German Shepherds, dude. My wife and I both had issues with German Shepherds. All right, so let's go back because I want to. Where are you going to go, Andy? We're going to leave. You're going to leave Nashua to go where? Yeah, Nashville is kind of a dump. Let's keep talking here. All right, so we find that tariff increases enacted in 2018 are associated with relative reductions in manufacturing employment. And the reason they cite is because rising input costs. We've already proved that did not happen. It did not happen. I mean, it happened for a little bit, for like a couple months, but did not happen after that. Right. For producer prices, the relative increases associated with tariffs are solely due to the rising input costs. Well, again, we already showed you that the import costs did not, they were already going up anyway. They went up less when tariffs were enacted and they started going down. The results necessarily represent short-term effects of tariffs, and the longer-term implication of trade tensions may differ from the estimated here. Again, we're using estimates, and they are acknowledging the longer-term implication of trade tensions may differ from those estimated here. So again, the people who are arguing on behalf of not having tariffs are using this paper right here as their claim why tariffs are bad. But these people themselves are even saying the longer-term implications of trade tensions may differ. Furthermore, some effects may dissipate if tariffs were to return to their previous levels, while others may be longer-lived. Some effects of the tariffs may dissipate if the tariffs were returned to the previous levels. They have not. First of all, they have not. And then guess what happened to the input costs? They went down again. So my question is, well, if the tariffs can make input, if we get rid of the tariffs, thus reducing input cost, i.e., reducing the price of producing and producing the price for the consumer, then what happens when input costs go down, even with tariffs? Would not that be the same consequence? If input costs are driving the prices up because of tariffs, and then we keep tariffs and input costs go down, would that not have the same impact of getting rid of tariffs and having input costs go down? Of course it would, unequivocally. So the reason the costs are going up, according to these guys, because input costs. What happens if input costs go down? Tariffs or no tariffs? Then prices would go down. That's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. But they kept the tariffs. Early work, this is what cracked me up here. Early work in this literature includes a couple guys who find nearly complete pass-through of U.S. tariff increases to domestic prices, implying welfare losses through, though a relatively small magnitude. Interesting. I think I got a comment here. What did my comment say on that? Right here. So my comment right here, they say there is going to be near complete pass-through of U.S. tariffs to domestic prices, implying welfare costs of a relatively small magnitude. Interesting, because we saw the prices were going down anyway. So the complete pass-through of domestic prices, and yet we saw the prices go down. I can share something else with you here too. Cavallo showed that product composition appears to be a key determinant in the difference in pass-through between U.S. imports and U.S. exports during the tariff escalation, while showing that the majority of U.S. tariff increases are being absorbed by U.S. retailers. Interesting. So U.S. retailers, according to this guy, are eating the cost of tariffs. Interesting. But again, we find a nearly complete pass-through of U.S. tariffs to domestic prices. So if it's a complete pass-through of U.S. tariffs because of increases to domestic prices, the retailer was the one biting the bullet on the pass-through. Interesting. Now let's keep going. These guys examine the case of U.S. tariffs imposed on washing machines, showing that tariffs on individual countries can lead to the relocation of production across borders. Shocking. So tariffs might mean more production at home, while tariffs on a broader set of countries lead to substantial retail prices for both targeted products and complementary goods. I want to say what's going on. They're using washing machines as their case for tariff prices increasing domestic goods. Interesting. So let's take a look. What happened to washing machines from the tariffs in 2008 to the price of washing machines from the tariffs in 2008 to 2009, 2018 to 2009? And what we'll see here is a summary of average consumer prices for washing machines. All right, you ready here? All right, because everyone's saying washing machines went up. I said, did they now? So let's take a look. So in 2016 and 17, washing machines for basic models range from $250 to $400. 2018, after tariff was employed in February, they went from $250 to $400 to $350 to $500. Okay, man, that's proof right there. The tariffs made washing machines go up. So again, 2016 to 2017, the range is $250 to $400. 2018, after Trump's tariffs, the range was $350 to $500. 2019, the washing machines went down to 300 and 400. So after the tariffs were in place, the washing machines actually went down in price. Interesting. In fact, from 2020 to 21, the washing machines stayed where they were in 2018. Interesting. And then 2022, they went up significantly from 400 to 500 to 600 bucks. And that was because of tariffs, because tariffs were put in 2018. Anyway, the point being, in 2018 to 2019, washing machines went down in price. Washing machines went down in price. It doesn't matter what user, the high end, the mid, the basic, mid, or high. Interesting, is it not? Yes, it is. So I just say, well, that's kind of weird because we actually have evidence that the washing machines went down in price. Crazy after Trump's tariffs. Let's keep going. This guy, Huang, found the effects of tariffs also carry through to firms' financial performance, with more firms engaged in trade with China experiencing lower stock returns and higher default risk after the announcement was made. I haven't read into that yet. I'll look at that. I haven't looked into that study that he says in 2019, 1 year after the tariffs, that there are lower stock returns and higher default risk after they announced the new tariffs. Okay, that's okay, but I'll look at it. I find that's 1 year, dude. Right here, Rich Blanchard, Bone, and Quar find that this is how desperate these idiots are. These guys find that retaliatory tariffs can explain a shift in voting away from Republican House candidates in the 2018 election. I said, dude, this is how desperate these people are. Don't you know? Tariffs caused the Republicans to lose the House in 2018. Oh, dude, it's so friggin' stupid. It's so stupid. How do we know this? Because Trump took out, the first time this has happened since FDR, 4 incumbent Democrat senators. That hadn't happened since FDR. I want to say 1936, but don't hold me accountable to that. Oh, was it 1936? Actually, I can't remember. But it was during FDR's 4 terms. Anyway, we had never had an election like what happened with the Senate that happened under Trump. Trump gained seats in the Senate. He took out 4 incumbent Democratic senators. 4. He lost 2 Republican incumbents. The guy from Cory Gardner from Colorado. I forgot. I think it was. I can't remember who else it was. But we netted 2. We netted 2. The Republicans said we actually gained seats in the Senate. That had never happened like that since FDR. We lost the House. All right. Now, what usually happens in a midterm election? Typically, you lose the House. Not all the time, but you certainly lose House seats for sure. Almost always. Midterm election, you lose House seats. That's always a fact. You're going to attribute that to tariffs. This is how desperate these people are. It's insane, man. It's insane. And these guys can just go pound. I said, dude, if you're going to make these arguments, don't you know? The Red Sox won the World Series in 2018. Thus, tariffs led to the Red Sox win the World Series. Oh, man, okay. Crazy. I just hate liars, dude. I hate it because it's like the attribute tariffs to Republicans losing the House. How can we only talk about the House? Why don't they talk about the Senate? We believe this focus is important because our results indicate that tariffs have been a drag on employment and have failed to increase output. I already showed you what happened. If they think tariffs are a drag on employment for manufacturing, wait till they see what happened to free trade. I already showed you that, so I'm not going to show it to you again. We begin by providing some brief background on recent trends in manufacturing activity in the period leading up to and during the imposition of tariffs. Figure 1 displays manufacturing employment and production from 2017 January to August 2019. All right, with each data series converted to an index that equals 100 in 2018, just before Trump's tariffs. So we're going to look at this. So here's Trump's tariffs right here. Here's industrial production. Here's employment. Here's Trump's tariffs. I was like, you're really using this to the basis of Trump's tariffs? So they're going up. The index is 100, and we're going up. When did we go down? In January of 2019. What? So Trump's tariffs are basically right here, going up, going up, going up. But oh no, that's Trump's tariffs making it go down. Heads I win, tails you lose. I think I even said that right here. Yeah, January 18th starting point. I was like, that's what you're going to use? January 18th is the starting point, and you're going to say but this is January 19th. Oh, by the way, then it starts going back up again. Okay. The first tariff action was enacted in early February 2018 against large residential washing machines and solar panels modules. Now, I haven't looked at solar panels. I imagine there was probably a price increase in solar panels. I don't know that to be true. I don't know. Hey, look at my man Jeremy. Sold my truck debt-free again. Right on. Well, if you're debt-free, give me more than $1.99 super chat. Jeez, Jeremy, come on. Jeremy, these guys from Maine. Where are you, Jeremy? You in Virginia? Where are you, Brand? Where are you? Freaking Mainers. Can't stand them. Yeah, 100%. I heard House elections are rigged by the local districts to have migrants vote, and they're gerrymandered. I mean, that's the thing, too. Gerrymandered. Senate elections are not gerrymandered. All right. Tulsi Gabbard has shown evidence of actual election fraud. Oh, absolutely. Trump has always been skeptical of neoliberalism. The ironic part is after decades of L. Wellington, no one knows what vituperative remarks. The left is now defending that. L. Wellington's got to be British. I mean, he's got to be. Because no one has ever used the term vituperative remarks before. It has never happened in the history of mankind. Just the fact he's L. Wellington, Wellington, he's got to be a Brit. Oh, my goodness. I thought we banned Brits from here. I thought no Brits allowed here. Oh, yeah. But anyway, he's right. He's always been skeptical of neoliberalism. I was not, and I should have been. Remembered. Oh, yeah, dude. Was it raining again? The Dems are waiting for another quarter of negative GDP. Yeah, they won't have that this quarter. The GDP this way is going to be way up, dude. Because the reason the GDP was low this quarter was because of imports, for sure. And so what happens is imports. They bought all these imports to make inventory, and the reason they bought all these imports because they want to avoid the tariff prices. But they obviously felt they could sell the inventory they had. Yeah, some immediate coffee on me, Marie. Well, thank you. Wellington kicked ass at Waterloo. Yeah, but Wellington, I like the Wellington Investment Management Company, but they're not Brits because Brits, we kick ass. Brits, they take it, if you know what I'm saying. But Wellington, no, look, I got nothing but respect for Wellington other than and Brits as a whole. I mean, that tiny little island conquered the whole world. But they started using terms like vituperative, which no one's ever heard of. That word, no one has ever said that in the history of mankind. Vituperative. The caveman. My name's L. Wellington. I say things like vituperative. What does that mean, L. Wellington? Oh, you freaking what do they call us? You not mainlanders. What did the Brits call negatively on the they call us Yanks. What they call us the Brits back in the old days? Oh, not the Rothschilds kicked ass. Yeah. I don't know what they called us back then. The loss was more Napoleon's bad strategy than Wellington being brilliant. Well, if he just would have flooded the zone with more words like vituperative, dude, Wellington, if you're still here, I'm bagging on you, dude. It's okay. I'm goofing on you, man. It's all good. It's all good. The All In podcast, it was said the importers are putting the goods in a warehouse and won't have to pay import tax until they're released. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know about that. But what I'm saying is they're going to put it to work in inventory to sell the inventory, and as such, they're going to have to. That's going to have a mass increase in GDP. Less imports, more exports, most likely. Inventory being moved from basically the manufacturing line into sales. They'll have an increase in GDP. So they wouldn't be doing that if they thought the world was falling to an end. Man, I haven't paid any attention to solar panel models. I just know the price per kilowatt hour, probably until about 2021, 2022 has probably gone down, but I'm not sure. Don't hold me accountable to that. The second major tariff action affected steel and aluminum imports begins in March 2018. It's only the third instance of its use by the United States under the self-initiated under the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. Which determines whether an imported product is being imported in certain quantities or under such circumstances as to impair or threaten the U.S. national security. Exactly. National security. National security. The third and most significant tariff on U.S. imports from China was based on the Section 301 Trade Act in 1974, which is basically saying, hey, you guys are violating trade agreements. Tariffs on Chinese goods were announced in April. So remember the graph I just showed you. I think we got it right here, where they're saying And so all these tariffs happened in the first quarter of 2018. And yet, zhoops, still major growth. Zhoops, but then growth again. So you're going to say that's what caused the tariff to go on. That right there, but the tariffs are imported here. That's so stupid. Just stupidity just runs amok an economist. And yeah, I'm just, come on, man. And let's see. I think I got a couple of things I want to point out here because I do want to read a couple of these. Maybe I thought there's a couple. Oh, right here. Top 10 industries by new import protection. Primary aluminum production. Now let's go back again to the price of aluminum, and it went down and down. It kept going down. Primary aluminum production. Right here. And we're going to go down to the price of aluminum products. And what was going on to aluminum down here? Aluminum products were going down. And they went down, down, down. Now, after COVID, this isn't because of tariffs. I mean, this is just because of the stupidity of the COVID pandemic. But anyway, they went down, right? Down. We removed tariffs on Canada and Mexico in May of 2019, well after the prices were dropping. I just don't know how you can sit there and make an argument that tariffs caused the price of aluminum to go up when, in fact, you can actually see a price, basically $2,800 right there when tariffs are implemented, and it went all the way down to freaking $1,700, 33% decline. It's like embarrassing. I think I already showed you the employees. Yeah, we showed you the employees, the manufacturing employees. We'll show you the. Right here. I want to say something else too because they said I don't know if it's on this one. But they talk about everything is pre and post pandemic. 100%, Andy. Absolutely, 100%. They talk about So anyway, so you see primary aluminum production right there got the biggest absorption of tariffs, and yet the price of aluminum went down. So if the input cost is the cost of aluminum, well, the input cost of aluminum went down 33%. But I think there's something else I want to talk to you about here. There's something else. I can't follow these right here. Table 3 lists the top domestic industries most affected by increased costs from recent import tariffs, where once again we show the cumulative effects of all 2018 tariffs. As is apparent in the table, all these industries are heavily dependent on various metals for domestic production. All right. In some cases, such as the most affected industry, aluminum, sheet plate, foil, our measures indicate that any benefit of increase in import protection offset by increased costs. So again, aluminum, sheet, plate, foil, steel products, manufacture and purchase steel, new tariff share of cost. But yet the price of those things went down significantly, man. They went down. So it's like they're saying it went up for a day and we're going to use that forever when the next 30 days it went down below where it was to begin with. The prices were below the pre-tariff times, but they still want to say new tariff share of its cost. It's crazy. Here's like my man L. Wellington saying words no one else knows. Any bivariate relationship between an outcome measure and one of the channels identified above could end up conflating multiple potentially offsetting effects of an industry. Hence, we'll control for all channels of exposure to tariffs in our baseline specification, allowing us to calculate estimates, there's that word estimates again, of the effect of each channel holding the others constant. Finally, recognize that international trade will have industry-level effects even in the absence of changes in trade policy. We include additional controls that account for a baseline level of export and import exposure for each industry. And what they say someplace down here is that right here, I want to show you something. Rising input cost. That's weird because the input costs are going down. That's kind of weird. Producer import rising input costs right here. What? The prices were going down. Kind of strange. Rising input costs. What? That doesn't make any sense. So what's going on there? Anyway, I think there's one other thing, maybe not, but anyway, I want to show you something else because they said that in here someplace they said there's going to be a lesson of foreign trade. We'll say there'll be less foreign exports. That's what they said. Foreign exports will drop because of tariffs. That's what they said here someplace. Bivariate, having two variables. Yeah, that was what I'm saying. So what they'll say is like we have all these variables, but we're just going to focus on tariffs as a variable that we want to focus on, and everything else is noise. Tariffs what caused the increases in prices. But anyway, check this out. So remember, they're also going to say that exports went down because of tariffs. And this from the Fed. Exports of goods and services, you can see right here going to 2000. What? So we have exports going up a little bit from 2013 to 2014. And then exports went down from 2014 to 2016. Must be major tariffs that had that happen, right? Under Obama. Major tariffs under Obama. No, we had exports going up from 2016 to 2018. Then exports flatlined, not going down, but flatlined. Interesting. They said the tariffs, they literally said in here, the tariffs would make exports go down. It just did not happen. Must be huge tariffs that caused those exports to go down. By the way, all these exports going back up. Trump's trade tariffs are still on there for China. All right. But I just want to point out, exports go down. Can't attribute that to tariffs. Exports stay flat. We attribute that to tariffs. That's kind of weird. It's heads I win, tails you lose thing. And it always happens like that. Anyway, I just found that funny. So at the end of the day, tariffs work. What we make in the U.S. Until Woodrow Wilson screwed the U.S. 100%. Oh, my man Paul Francis. Vituperative, using, containing, or marked by harshly critical or irate language. Wow. Vituperative. All right. The greed of American companies want access to Chinese markets, did them in with their agreement to Chinese concession demands. Again, look at freaking Disney. Yeah, in 2000, the CCP was dumping steel. Yeah, it was what's called anti-dumping laws. Look what Disney's doing. They'll show like black guys on their posters here. They'll show like gay people in their stuff, and then when they send it over to China, they get rid of the black guys, they get rid of the gay stuff, and yet they say they're woke and DEI. It's all fake, dude. Anyway, yeah, there's not going to be no cuts. Fair trade, not free trade. I don't want any cuts, man. I don't want any cuts. The cuts, I think cuts are a facade of stimulant to the economy. I really do. At some point, we need to have people have a VA-tuperative. VA-tuperative. Emphasis on the second symbol. Paul Francis give me a lesson in how to pronounce it in English. VA-tuperative. VA-tuperative. Yeah, Disney will have a hell of a time making money off that loss from Snow White. Yep, 100%. V long I. VI. Oh, VI. VI imperative. Gotcha. Yeah, money market rates, 100%. We've had low rates for too long. We've been subsidizing debtors for too long. 4% is, in my opinion, a fair rate. Retirees get 4% on money markets. The interest rates aren't crazy in terms of being able to buy a house. I mean, my first mortgage was 7%. I think mortgage rates now, VI. Let's see what current mortgage rates are. Current 30-year mortgage rates. Who won the Kentucky Derby, by the way? Let's take a look. Hi, puppy. You coming in? Coming in to say hi? Coming in? Let's take a look at the current rates are national average 6.89. So the national average on mortgage rates are above or below number 18, a horse with the measles. Yeah, I hope Nuggets win tonight too, man. 100%. Hope Nuggets win. I hope the St. Louis Blues win. And who's the other game 7? Oh, the Rockets. Hoping the Rockets too. Look at my man Fast Eddie. That is funny, dude. Fast Eddie's scared of the measles, but he says the horse with the measles won. Sovereignty. Yeah, exactly. The rich thrive on low rates. They finance asset purchases. 100%. Anyway, so the point being is low rates aren't the boon that people seem to think it is. It's just not. We've had low rates for literally a decade. We hadn't had any economic boom. Relative to what it was in the past. In the 80s, we had rates. So high rates. And so the idea that rates will be a stimulant, it's just not. It takes money from grandmas and grandpas or retirees who can put money in a safe place to get interest without having to risk it. 4% is good. 4%, 30-year, 10-year treasury is the way to go. Doesn't high rates hurt small business? Yeah, but define a high rate, though. I mean, what's a high rate? 4% 10-year treasury is not a high rate. I mean, a 6.89% 30-year mortgage is lower than the first mortgage I ever had, and that was in 1998, and the economy was booming. mean, the economy under Reagan and Clinton with high rates was freaking booming, man. So you can't say it hurts small business. You just can't. I mean, we can. I mean, you could say it, but I'm just saying at the end of the day, the evidence is just not there. Low rates certainly didn't grow the economy. I mean, it just the economy was growing under Clinton and Reagan well above with high rates what it's doing under the last 10, 15 years. Just fact. I mean, since 2000, basically 20 years. We had low rates for so many years and the economy was not growing. High rates under Reagan, high rates under Clinton, the economy was booming. I got sick last week eating lettuce. Perhaps it should have been recalled. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. For my MMT, I 100%. And the what made me realize the MMT guys were correct in this regard is they say very simplicity, very simple, which maybe changed my opinion on that. Who gets the interest payment when there are higher rates? The federal government is paying more interest. I never thought about this. It's so simple. You're like, who's on the receiving end of that interest? It's us, the people who own the bonds, the debt. Who owns the most federal debt? It's us, the Americans. We own the most federal debt, be it through mutual funds, pension funds, 401k plans, insurance companies, or just, freaking mom and pop. We own the debt. We do. So the federal government, we're loaning money to the federal government by buying their bonds, and instead they're giving us the interest. It's not China. As I said before, China's debt ownership of the United States is down 50% over the last 10 years. 50%. China's debt has dropped by 50% since 2014. I mean, think about that. It's not China. It's just not. Japan's has just leveled. I think Japan's gone down a little bit too, but hasn't done much. We own the debt. And as such, when the federal government has all these interest payments, I'm like, good. That means who's on the other side of the ledger? The ledger is us. We get the money. And you're like, well, that's bad? No, because then we turn around with that interest, we pay taxes right back to them. I mean, it's just that simple. We pay ordinary income tax on the interest we get from the federal government. And as such, you're like, well, why is that a bad thing? It's not a bad thing. That's the whole point. That's why they'll never pay off the debt. They're never going to pay it off. The idea of even balancing the budget to stop the deficit is never happening. Never going to pay it off. So might as well just get used to it. So if we're never paying off, people are like, well, the national interest is like the third largest line item behind Social Security and Medicare. I think it's Social Security, Medicare, national interest, and defense spending. Who cares? We're getting the money. And they can simply, if they want to reduce the line item for the national debt, they reduce the freaking interest payments. I'm full of it, says Pierce. Okay, well, you can get out of here then, guy. That was a good argument, by the way. Banned user. Oh, Pierce has been banned. Oh, you know why? Because the guy who wrote that article is just writing his last name Pierce. I bet that was the guy. I think he's offended because I just called him out. Oh, Pierce said, how dare you read my article and not say how great I am? I should be the Obama's counselor economic advisors because my name's Pierce, just like the guy who wrote that article. But I can't challenge you because you're right. I can have perpetual money flow keeps the economy moving. 100%, dude. And that's the velocity of money. Velocity of money. My first mortgage was 8% in 1993. Right. And 100%. That's what I'm saying. So the rates now are just, I think this is the equilibrium where they should be. And a lot of people are freaking out like the rates are too high. No. I mean, then you look at the economy in the 1970s. Believe it or not, the economy in the 1970s was booming with high rates, even with high inflation. And because you look at the real GDP growth, the real net of inflation, the economy in the 1970s was booming much higher than it was under these last 20 years of low rates. Anyway, so it's just that simple. 6.99, my auto loan was too high. Should have been 1 to 2%, especially when my credit score is around 300 or 800, excuse me. U.S. should return to Treasury issued United States note, which for less has no interest to. I would do a 100-year bond, actually. That's what I would do. 100-year bonds, 4% 100-year bonds. See how many people want to buy those things. Or maybe 5% 100-year bonds. I think I was reading this article that said like Denmark issued 100-year bonds at like 100 bips or something like that. Anyway, so I got no qualm with there's other things of modern monetary theory that I think is kind of crazy. Like the idea that you can just pull back. Once people are addicted to spending and you say, oh, no, inflation's coming, you can't just pull back. And that's the MMT people, I think, are wrong. They're like, we can spend when the economy is going south to generate a stimulus. I 100%, I got no qualm with that. None at all. But at some point, when are you going to pull back that spending? We came and cut spending now from the stimulus from Trump and Biden. I mean, our spending is well above where it was pre-Trump, and we're not even getting back there. It's just, you can't cut back once it's been stimulated. You just can't. And this is the challenge that the modern monetary theorists will say is, no, we can control for inflation. Once it gets out of hand, we just cut back. It's like, it doesn't work in reality like that. Who lives at 100? Who wants to predict what happens? No, but you don't have to. Pulverize it. How many people actually buy a bond and hold the whole thing outright? No, you buy the bond for the 5% interest rates. You say, all right, I'll buy a newly issued bond. I'm guaranteed 5%. I'll never go bankrupt. And if I die, I'll give it to my kids. They'll get 5%. They'll never go bankrupt. I mean, it's just, you're not buying it for the maturity. You're buying it for the interest of what you're doing. It'll never be paid. Essentially, you're saying it'll be a perpetual bond. It'll never become mature. Never. All right, my friends, I'm going to watch a movie, Enemy movie. Wayne, we're over there? All right, about ready to watch? Yeah, I'm getting ready to watch. We're going to watch this movie, Enemy. I love my Best Buy credit card, 0% interest rate for 12 months, always paid off. 100%. I got, we did some work in the back. It's on my Navy Federal right now. 0% interest rates, you know what I'm saying? And I pay off, I try to pay off a 10th or a 12th every month. I got 10,000 on there, so I'm paying $833 a month on that, guys. That way it'll be paid off. MMT leads to a CBDC, for which is the old, we don't know that, man. I mean, no, we don't know. I mean, MMTs does lead to a centralized banking currency. You should watch Trap, Josh. What's that about, Penelope? Make sure you get your measles shot. Test Eddie. Are you really that scared? For real, you seem like a good guy, but are you really that frightened of measles? I mean, it's okay. I'm not gonna yell at you. I just find it weird, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. What's Trap about, Penelope? And how dare you tell me what I should watch without asking me first? Oh, by the way, so just all these idiots who say washing machines went up in value and price because of Trump's tariff say, no, they didn't. They went down in 2019. Just say they went down in 2019. I think he's just trolling you. I don't think so. I think he's a centralized token ledger is bad. I agree with that. It's about the butcher. You know, I completely agree that centralized token ledger is bad. I don't like Bitcoin. I completely agree with that. I don't know necessarily that MMT leads that. I mean, hell, I don't know you can make that argument that an MMT leads to a centralized, because we haven't had a CBDC yet, and on top of that, MMT, we've used the MMT essentially going back to Keynes, so there's just no connection there. They can say MMT leads to a central digitized banking system. I just don't see you can make that connection, and you could certainly say a devalued currency could. I don't know, because we haven't had it. All right. Yeah, I guess you're right. Pulverizer was trolling me. We live in a euro dollar system anyway, which is a whole. No, dude, don't understand. Okay, the guy. Oh, okay, interesting. The guy who gave us signs. Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan. Oh, come on. Oh, I guess I gotta go for Dallas. Yeah, I'm going for Dallas there. Now, I like Colorado, man. I think I'm going for Colorado. All right, I'm out of here, man. God bless. We'll see you guys. Thanks again for being here. And remember, the washing machines went down a year after the tariffs. We'll see you. All right, Cooley.